Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Deck. We are coming at you from Spirit Lake Nation. We're going to hear from Chairman Yankton. He's going to give us an overview as to what's going on up here. We're also going to talk to the president of the college and learn about some of the degrees that you can actually get right up here at Spirit Lake Nation. We are going to talk about some of the manufacturing that's actually going on that protects our servicemen. That happens right up here at Spirit Lake Nation. And we're going to end with talking to some historians and elders regarding why it's important to save the culture as well as learn the Dakota language. Watch now. Hi, I'm Mary. Welcome to Spirit Lake Nation, our next My Hometown. Right now I have the pleasure of sitting with Chairman Douglas Yankton right out here at the casino, Spirit Lake Casino and Resort. I want to, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mary. I'm glad to be on your show today, and I'm glad that you taking the time to come out to Spirit Lake and visit and talk about our tribe.
Yeah, you know, it's such a beautiful culture. I was in Devil's Lake doing another show, and I thought, I kept getting drawn to come down here. It's like, Mary, you've got to go down to Spirit Lake. And so I did. It just so happened that you were in that day. And we sat and talked about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just about the great things going on in your community. Why don't you share a little bit, just the history of Spirit Lake Nation?
I think, you know, part of the history of our people and our tribe is more so today that I have recognized is bringing back and keeping alive some of our history and our culture and our traditions, our song and our dance, you know, trying to make that awareness to the rest of North Dakota and the rest of the world that we're still here.
Yes, and you will be here for a long time. You were here before the rest of us were here, and you're going to be here alongside of us forever. And so it's just amazing. A lot of people don't understand the Native American culture. Do you want to share a little bit of that with us?
I think, you know, for our culture has to do a lot with, you know, revitalizing especially our language. We don't have many elders left that are fluent speakers. The new elders today that we do have are what we call second language speakers who are learning from the fluent speakers. So keeping a lot of that language alive helps identify who we are as a Dakota people, you know, and then from there it leads on to helping our people understand who we are through our history, you know, and so forth. So I just think for me, being a tribal leader, that's kind of important to keep that alive, you know, for the next generations to come.
Right. And so it's important to save that history for everyone, for that matter. We're always one generation away from losing our history as our elders pass on. And so that's another thing that we love to go ahead and highlight, because it just seems it's going away. So I can understand that you guys you're giving it to your students in your elementary school, your grade school, your high schools, and even a college right here at Spirit Lake Nation.
Yeah, and we have a lot of active people in the community that are still keeping this alive, you know, for us. We have several drum groups, several people who know the songs, several people who know the ways of the drum, you know. From some of the stories I was told, a lot of the songs and the drum stories originated from the Spirit Lake tribal people, you know. So there's a lot of history here when it comes to singing and dancing. A lot of things were introduced from our people in the realm of the powwows, or what we call the wachipis, you know. So there's a lot of history here, and as time allows and as you interview other people, I call them historians of our tribe, community members and tribal members as well. They'll share some of those with you, you know. So there's a lot of rich history when it comes to the song and dance from the Dakota people.
So then, as I was doing my research, I know that years ago it was called Devil's Lake Sioux Tribe, and then it changed to Spirit Lake Nation. Tell us about that change.
So originally in our treaty, we were known as the first original treaty. We were one tribe between us and the Sistan of Waptanoyate, our sister tribe. Then we got separated and broken down into two, and then they placed us here. And we were originally the Devil's Lake Sioux tribe, and then most recent years here we had a vote amongst our people to have a name change. But even within that name change, the Department of Interior did not put down what we voted for. So in translation from Miniwaka'oyate, they just put the English version, Spirit Lake Tribe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, like you said, we're going to talk to some historians later in the show, but just a little bit about what's going on here now. You have a fantastic, full-blown building here, the casino itself, but it's not just a casino. It's an event center. You have a lot of things going on. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our casino, we utilize it for various activities, whether they're community related or casino related. We have different venues. We host concerts here, banquets, meetings, on that business side. Then on our culture side, we also use it for when we host little mini powwows or veterans powwow, So it's used for a variety of functions, whether they're business related or culture related activities.
Sure. And I know a lot of people that go to the different casinos across the nation here. This used to be a dry casino, but you guys now have a liquor license.
Yeah.
For the last 2 years?
Yep.
Great. All right. And so then just a few other businesses right here in town. You have a health center, you have a memorial home. I mean, you have a mini mall, coffee shops, gas stations. Your nation here has it all.
So we have we're not as small as people think we are, and we're slowly expanding. So we're trying to get into the realm of integrating, but yet keeping our culture and our language alive, but still being modern, So as time evolves, that's just something that we need to adapt to,
Sure.
To keep surviving and keeping our ways alive.
Sure. So if someone wanted to go ahead and go out for a day drive or a weekend drive, what could they find right down here in the Fort Totten area?
Oh, we have a lot of things that are probably not talked about a whole lot, other than from our immediate people here. But we have like White Horse Hill. We have other historic sites that have names that we already had names for. For example, we have Shante Paha, which the non-native would refer to as Devil's Heart, but we don't have a word for that name in our language. So we have a lot of historic sites here within the Devil's Lake or the Spirit Lake Nation, in the Devil's Lake area. One of the most significant things we probably have here is our water, and I don't know if you'll get a chance to see that, but our lake is probably our most prized possession that we have here, along with our land.
And that's been for centuries.
For centuries, and those are probably the two most important things as Dakota people that we take reverence to.
All right. So, Chairman, I want to thank you for joining us today, and thanks for sharing that history. And we look forward to the rest of the guests that are coming on to talk a little bit more in depth. But thank you for inviting us to be part of Spirit Lake Nation.
Yes, and thank you, Mary.
Thank you. And we'll be right back after this with more on Ladies of Another View on Beck, coming at you from Spirit Lake Nation. Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We are still at the casino, and we're excited to be here. And I have Louis with me now. Louis Garcia, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Louis, when we had the meeting, the chairman asked different community members to come together so that we can learn more about what we wanted to share. And so your name popped up right away. You are a tribal historian, I understand.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became a historian and what you would like to share about the Spirit Lake Nation?
Well, the tribe decided, because of my knowledge, I used to talk to the people that are all gone now, and so I learned the early history of the tribe.
And then you have that preserved. There's a preservation office right here up by the campus, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us what goes on in what goes on in tribal preservation. Is it something that's a moving, living, breathing thing, or is it just most of the stuff from the past?
Well, I've been here for over 55 years, and I'm still learning.
Yes.
And so we try and put all of these things away for the future. It's the children that we're thinking about, not us.
Right. And that's just it. With every generation leaving us, just a little piece of history is lost. Why don't you tell us some of the folklore or famous stories from the area?
Well, I want to talk about the lake itself. That when the French were the first Europeans that the Dakota met, and they called this place Lac du Diable, Lake of the Devil, because they misinterpreted what the Dakota were trying to explain how the lake was named. And it got into, when the English arrived, they changed it to Devil's Lake. And so it is called Mini Wakan, the sacred water. And there is a spirit in the lake, and this spirit likes to keep the water for himself or herself. And they're at war all the time with what is glossed over as the Thunderbird, and we call it Wakia, the flyer. And the flyer wants to take the water from the water spirit and bring it up into the sky, and at the appropriate time bring it down as snow, hail, and especially rain to bring up the crops and make the grass green for the buffalo and the other animals and birds, and so that this sounds like kind of like the Three Little Pigs or type of story, a fairy tale. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
What the Dakota people were explaining was that this war between these two spirits is actually the hydrological cycle of the water being taken up into the air, evaporating, and then being deposited back down.
Right.
And so that's why we call this place Spirit Lake.
Wow. That's interesting, that is something that I've never heard before. And as far as the devil, there is no term in the Dakota language for devil.
That's correct. We can translate it and say, a bad spirit.
Sure. And so what does it bring to the community now?
Well, there's all kinds of resorts around the lake. There's fishing. They have a big fishing tournament here every year. Sure. Swimming and boating and just the general beauty of the lake. Sure. Because this is a very pretty reservation.
It really
as
is.
Compared to others.
It really is. And there's also some folklore that I had read that the natives, like centuries ago, said that this lake would once again cover the earth. Any truth to that?
Well, it may, because just west of Tokyo, North Dakota, we have the home of the water spirit, the Water Spirit's Lodge. And right now it's up on dry land, but at one time in the past, the water came right up to this hill that's located, as I said, just west of Tokyo.
Interesting. All right. So I guess we have just simply run out of time for today, but I do want to thank you for coming and sharing your part of the knowledge regarding preservation of Spirit Lake.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
We are visiting with Philip Longy right here at Spirit Lake Nation, and he is a historian, but also a consultant at the college, and I understand you were also a former chairman of the tribe.
Yes, I was.
All right, well, welcome to the show. We only have a little bit of time, so there's a couple of different things on the reservation right now that are so important. One of them is White Horse Hill. Tell us a little bit about that and the name change.
Well, White Horse Hill is, of course, is a national park, and a few years back, a good friend of mine and a friend of the tribe got word that we had an opportunity to change it, and so he worked hard for several years and finally got enough people to listen to him, the state legislatures and on up to national level, and got it changed because the name of the previous park was a general that just wasn't acceptable to Indian people. He didn't like Indians and he killed a lot of Indians and stuff, particularly our people,
And so that was General Sully, and it used to be
Yep.
called Sully's Hill.
Yep.
And I guess that stands to reason that something like that should be changed. I
Right.
completely understand
Exactly.
that.
Legislators, I'm glad, understood that.
Right.
Got it changed.
And so how did you come up with the name White Horse Hill?
The story goes that years ago, when the Mini H, which is the steamboat that ran across the lake, would come back, they would see a white horse up on top of the hill. It would come down, and I don't know what to do, feed down there or something, but they continually seen this horse, and so people started calling it White Horse, in Indian,
Sure.
Shungska, that means white horse.
Oh, wow, that's awesome information. All right, so we also, right here in Fort Totten, there is a fort. Why don't you tell us the history of that?
Well, that fort was built back in the early 1800s, and or close to 1890 or 1880 something. I don't know the exact year it was built, but it's built. The historic thing about it is it's built from material that's right here. People got the earth, they made bricks, cooked them, and they built that thing. And it's been standing since the turn of the century, and it's still there. And so it served the military, and now the quarters, the officers' quarters in those buildings are, a couple of them I think are made into bread and breakfast type deals for tourists, coming through. But the rest of the facility is maintained by the state, I believe, and they whitewash the bricks so that they don't deteriorate. And just this summer they were re-roofing part of it, so every year some work is done on it. But over the years, it was besides the military, it was a boarding school for Indian children, and the children came from all over, from Turtle Mountain and South Dakota and North Dakota and Montana, and it was just a boarding school that housed several hundred students. And matter of fact, I was one of them, and some of these other kids around here were
Sure.
boarding students.
Sure. All right, so we only have maybe a minute and a half left. Why don't you just kind of tell us why it's so important to preserve the history of the tribe, the reservations, the Native American life in general?
Well, it's very important because, for example, I have children that are split. They're one guy is more traditional, another one is more modern type,
Less traditional.
Well, he has blue eyes and blonde hair,
Well, that's not all bad.
The other guy has dark hair and long, and
Sure.
and participates in ceremonies and stuff like
Sure.
that. But the thing is, we want to teach our children those things. They don't have to participate in them. They have to understand them and respect them. That's what I teach my kids.
Oh, that's great.
And I think that going forward, I think if we can do that, we should be all right.
Great. Okay, well, I want to thank you for sharing your part of the preservation of the Spirit Lake Nation. And we will be right back after this with more on Ladies of Another View on Back. Right, welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I have the honor and privilege of visiting with Cynthia Lindquist, and I'm going to say this name correctly. It's Chandeska Chicana Community College.
Great job.
Oh, welcome
Great
to the
job.
show. Welcome to the show. So, I understand there's a college on campus or on the tribe here, the tribal grounds. Why don't you tell us the importance of why education should be in every community?
It is. Education for anybody is so important, not just Native people. And tribal colleges and universities particularly play a very critical role for our respective communities. But for me as an educator, as a tribal member, many stereotypes still abound, including in North Dakota. As much as we're nice in that, people believe we get checks every month because we're Indian. People believe that we don't pay taxes, and those are stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Native people do pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Tribes, tribal colleges, our industries on our reservations contribute to the state's economy. And it's very different and varied in our respective communities, but education is the pathway to better understanding, to better learning.
Great. So how long has the college been here?
In 2024, Chandeska Chistana Community College will be celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Wow.
And I believe you've already interviewed our chairman,
Yes.
Doug Yankton. Chairman Yankton happens to be Chandeska Chistana III. His father and his grandfather are the namesake for the college. Chandeska Chistana means little hoop. And his grandfather was a fallen Dakota warrior from World War II. His family are strong supporters of education. They believe in the betterment of people is through that pathway. So Little Hoop, Chandeska Chistana Community College was established by the tribe in 1974 to provide higher education opportunities for our people on the reservation. There are 35 tribal colleges and universities in the United States. We all have as our core mission the teaching, the learning of our respective cultures and languages. It's a graduation requirement for our students. And so we believe that investment helps us to perpetuate and to learn about who we are. Who are the Dakota people? How and why did we come to live in Fort Totten, North Dakota? That's all part of our curriculum. We have 8 programs of study, 4 certificates. We do many different things through the tribal college system, including research. We are a land grant institution, so we do lots of different things with extension, with food sovereignty, just many aspects of education, cultural education, community education to help our people.
Great. Just driving around the college campus, I noticed that there's a semi-truck with a trailer attached for learning how to get your CDL.
Yes.
There's a house that's there that I assume that your construction or carpentry class actually built.
Oh, I'm so glad you got to see those. Chandeska Chistana Community College provides a CDL program, which is a commercial driver's license program, professional drivers in that, and I'm sure everybody knows there's a huge need, particularly for bus drivers right now. And our little program provides that training on site here in Fort Totten, North Dakota. We partner with Lake Region State College and Train ND to help expand that for more people relative to testing and those opportunities. Likewise, our carpentry and advanced manufacturing program, which is kind of a little newer program for Chandeska Chistana Community College, we build a house every year. And this year, the Board of Regents for the college has directed us to go into the market for tiny houses. My reservation, Spirit Lake Tribe, has a huge need for homes for people, and most reservation communities have that need. And through our carpentry program, we're really hoping to help our students. And it's somewhat of a student housing project, but the houses, we're going to build 2 tiny houses this coming year. Actually, the applications are open till tomorrow for all my students this year, so we're really excited to venture into tiny houses building and completion and to helping tribal people have homes.
And that's really a nice niche market right now, these tiny homes. It's kind of catching on across the nation. And it's just great to know that some of that stuff is going to be built right here.
Yes.
not just in North Dakota, but on Spirit Lake Nation.
Yeah.
A lot of pride goes with that.
Yes, it's exciting. Our carpentry program is been around for quite a while, and we do some really good work. Our advanced manufacturing is a little bit new venture, along with Sioux Manufacturing Corporation here on the reservation, and we're hoping to use the technology side to build energy efficient homes that also have some aspects relative to health and well-being in that. And so we're really excited. But we also want to incorporate that Habitat for Humanity model, where our students put in sweat equity for the finishing, the completion of the home, the moving of the home, so that pride is instilled, but also that maintenance and care. How do I take care of my home? How do I pay for it? You know, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And that's what tribal colleges are really good at doing.
Sure. So we only have about a minute left. I understand it's a 2-year program, or all of your courses are 2-year programs. Do you have sports teams? Do you have a bookstore? Do you have gift shops? We got to cram this all in.
We do have a bookstore that we're hoping to develop into a Dakota-made product venue for the community, for gifts, for all kinds of things. We're still kind of working on that, but we do have some really nice products. So if anybody is coming through Fort Totten, please stop by the college, stop by our bookstore. We love visitors to come see us, to learn about who we are. There's more to be done, to be developed relative to that end.
Great. And I know you mentioned Dakota-made products. People might not understand that there's a difference between Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota.
Yes, of course. And we like to joke among each other, but the biggest difference is the language and the variation in the language. So Dakota people speak with the D dialect, and Lakota the L and N. But there are relatives, there are our families in that. So for Spirit Lake, we speak with the D Dakota people. And yes, Dakota made products for our bookstore. We have many gifted people on the reservation, artists, craftspeople, and we're hoping to engage them to provide products for our bookstore that we could resell for them and maybe even launch into online business.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again for joining us today and for sharing the information about Chandeska Chicana.
Chandeska Chicana Community College, which means Little Hoop, but thank you, Padamia.
Thank you very much. And we'll be right back after this with more on Ladies of Another View on Beck. Hi, we are visiting with Larry Holtzman of Sioux Manufacturing. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Well, you know, when I came down here and I saw Sioux Manufacturing, I thought, I have no idea what this is all about. Tell us what you know about Sioux Manufacturing.
Sioux Manufacturing is a manufacturing company, as the name implies, and we buy raw material and we convert that material into higher level products that we sell to customers, primarily in the defense industry. The company is fully owned and operated by the Spirit Lake Nation tribe. We have a manufacturing facility that's about 250,000 square feet located in the community of Fort Totten, and we currently employ around 75 people. We do have a lot of high-tech equipment that's state-of-the-art. We do a lot of compression molding, water jet cutting, machine centers. We have a paint line. We have a weaving capability, and we do a wide variety of industry type of jobs that we do.
All right, so, but I understand it's a very important item that you make. That do you still make the Kevlar?
Right. We still manufacture what they call ballistic spall liners that are made from Kevlar, which is a bullet-resistant material. But we make a lot of other armor products as well that are. What we make is referred to as spall liners, and they are used as liners inside of military vehicles like the Bradley fighting vehicle, the M113 armored personnel carrier, that sort of thing. And in the past, we've also manufactured ballistic helmets. So we did those for almost 12 years. We made over 1 million helmets that we sold, to the U.S. Army. So
So it's really
we do.
interesting. So if you were in the military or in the Army, your helmet may have been made right here at Spirit Lake Nation in North Dakota. To me, that is such a wonderful piece of history because nobody would know that.
Yeah, we've manufactured a lot of products that have gone into military applications, and a lot of the products are still in use. We started making camouflage. That's our first product that we made in 1973, and that program ran for about 20 years. At the peak, we had over 500 employees that were manufacturing camouflage material, and a lot of those products are still in use today. So I think that's one of the things that we recognize as being an important contribution to the community, if you will, is the fact that the pride that goes into manufacturing these items, and it's an item that has value and an important use to someone else. So it's kind of like an intangible fringe benefit, if you will, that I made that thing and it's still being used.
Right.
So
and you're saving the country, you're saving the
Right.
world. You're like right in the heat of it. And again, people wouldn't know that it's happening right here on Spirit Lake Nation by Devil's Lake.
Right.
That's an amazing story. You got just a few seconds left. Tell us why it's so important to have it in your community.
Well, if you just look at the history of the company, I think the most important contributions that the company has made is the fact that in our history, over 6,000 people have earned a paycheck there at one time or another.
Wow.
The other important thing that we think of is the fact that over the years we brought in literally hundreds of millions of dollars that came into the state that contributed to, we use it, the local economy, not only the benefits of the individual people, but to support local businesses, community activities, sports events, all sorts of different things that, and again, it's the pride that I think people take in being able to say, I earned this paycheck and I'm supporting my family.
Great.
Those are the most important things I think that we,
So-
most contributions that we provide
Sure.
to the
And
community. So.
do you guys give tours of the plant at all?
We do on occasion
It would
for
have to be-
special events
Okay.
type of thing. So.
All right, so we've run out of time regarding Sioux manufacturing, but hey, saving the world right here in the Spirit Lake tribe, right here in North Dakota, Fort Totten. Come check it out. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and we'll be right back after this with more on Ladies of Another View on Back. Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. When I say that we saved the best for last, I really mean it. This segment, we're going to talk about the cultural importance, about the language, and about how important it is for elders to be right here and teaching the younger generation. I want to welcome Winona Fox to the show. Thank you for joining us, first of all, but why don't you kind of just dive into the history and why it's important for the traditions to carry on?
Okay, the history of our tribe goes back, way back many years. Everything our ancestors did then, they taught their little ones and it came. It's here today. I have that history here. I know the meaning to the lake, the Spirit Lake. They talked about it already.
Mm-hmm.
When the non-Indians came, to them, what we saw as spirits who were all good spirits who helped us all. They taught us everything. They helped us on the way to raise our families. That's why we called it Mene Waka, Spirit Lake. The non-Indian came and thought spirits, that was a devil. To us, we never knew devil. Today, we don't know devil. That's how we came.
Sure.
When we came, there's different places all over the reservation that have the true history of our tribe.
I was going to say,
Chantewaka was what they call Devil's Heart now.
okay.
There's a story to that. There's a long, true story. And that Devil's Tooth, there's a true story to that. One of my relatives was there. And Crow Hill, all over the reservation. This reservation has history. Spiritual history, the spirits that brought us here, that wanted to keep us here. Today, they help us to raise our families, to look after our families in a good way, to teach them the good ways. That's the way it was a long time ago, and today it's a little different. That's okay. But today, our children, they have ceremonies to go to, and they understand where they're at. They understand what they are, that they're people of Spirit Lake. And they can live in the non-Indian world. They live in two worlds. That's what the Indians are today. People who live in two good worlds, the good Indian way and the good non-Indian way. They learn to pick those up through ceremonies. They learned all these things. I had a great-great-grandmother. And in those days, they didn't have baby bottles. They had to carry the babies along. She went after groceries. They hitched up the team, and she took the team and went to the grocery store. It started storming, but she quickly shelved her food for the family. She started home from the store. In the storm, she couldn't go any further. It was storming too bad. She didn't make it home. The next day they found her.
I'm so sorry.
She was frozen, but her baby had all the bedding wrapped around him. He had everything put around him. He was a little boy. And today he has family living. But that was called, where she parked the sleigh was in front of this great big stone. That's what they call Devil's Tooth now.
Oh,
It has history. It's not a devil's tooth.
right.
It's not that, but that's the name it has.
Sure. So we're just going to quickly go through, our viewers might notice that we moved the headdress.
Yes.
Tell us real quickly why we had to do that.
I lived the ceremony life for many years. My children had 10 children myself. And 9 of them were in these spiritual gatherings they call Sundance. They grew up that way. We knew the things they taught. And we know, I'm sorry about moving the war bonnet, but I just had to say it. If I was going to speak here, I have to do things our ancestors did.
Awesome.
You never faced that direction when you prayed. You faced south, west, north, west, south, and east. We had our ways to go. We went this way.
Okay.
And I couldn't sit under a war bonnet. I was facing the wrong way. I'm sorry, but
That's all right.
that's my way.
Thank you. Well, Winona, we have run out of time for today.
I understand.
But we appreciate that knowledge that you bring and that you share with the younger generation so that they can also carry on these traditions. And if you want to learn more about these traditions, stop on out to Spirit Lake Tribe. They have a bookstore. You can buy books, but you can hear, touch, feel, and learn the history of Spirit Lake Nation. And we're going to be right back.
And then on November 5th in Fargo is a very important day.
And what's going on?
I'm not going to say it, but it's in Fargo on
Okay.
November 5th.
Okay.
It tells about the reservation.
Oh, wonderful. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now joined by Marva Tollefson right here on the Spirit Lake Nation, and you are a language coordinator.
Yes.
Well, why don't you tell us why it's so important to save the language?
We started back a few years ago with different programs to bring our language back. I myself and others had started teaching in our homes to bring the language more and more into our community. The culture in itself and the language in itself are very important to our people. We believe that when we bring our culture, the language into our culture and into just everyday speaking, that it brings something inside of them. We call our language wakan, which means sacred. And to us, when we're speaking our language, it's something very special because we go into public and we hear other languages, and we'd like to say, you know, our language too, to speak our language also.
So not only is the language important, but the names are important as well, because
Yes.
you are Marva Tollefson, but you also go by Lightning Comes in the House.
Teowakahedi, lightning comes in the house. Yes, that was my great-great-grandmother's name, and it was given to me.
Great. And so tell us more about the language program. Like, what ages do you teach?
All ages. Right now I'm going into Minnewacan School because Four Winds already has their teacher there. Warwick has theirs, so I'm going there. Plus we're teaching kind of freelance after hours. Anybody that wants to learn the language, we're coming up with different things to encourage them, like language bowls. We did our own, getting money wise, to encourage them to come in to play. Like first place would be 1,000, second place 500, etc.
Oh, wow. So you look for sponsors to help you with that?
Yes.
Great. All right. So then I know when I was out here last week, we were visiting, and one of the other gals, Lana, had mentioned that there are some language immersion programs. Do you guys have that here where when you walk in the room, you have to speak the Dakota language?
No, this is where we're going to start that. We have another teacher besides Lana that we're going to start doing that after hours because we feel that our language is very important. So that's where we're starting that.
Okay. And so if you were to guess right here on the reservation, about what percentage of the population actually knows the language and can speak it fluently?
I actually wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
But we're trying to get that to 100%, I would guess.
Right. I'd say about 25%, if I had to really guess, because there are some fluent speakers here, but I really don't know how many there are left.
Sure. And again, tell us why you think it's so important that it stays, that we continue to teach it, for the next centuries for that matter.
Well, for me, myself, I don't speak for a lot of people, but I feel just special knowing that my language is there and it's alive. It's coming out in schools and stuff. Kids are walking up to me and saying, hey, what's that? So that means that's good. So, it's getting out there and they want to learn it. They want to know how to say grandma and grandpa and things like that. And when I walk into the Minnewacan School, they all call me Kunshi, even though I'm not their grandmother, but that's what they call me. And that's how it is in our families. Right away, we become family to somebody, So that's why I love the language.
Perfect. And where can they learn more? If, say, someone, 200 miles or 2,000 miles from here, where can they learn more about learning the Dakota language?
I would say there's a lot of online videos and etc. But in your own community, it would be your own people, your own schools, your own elders, etc.
Okay. All right. So I want to thank you for joining us here today. Any last words for our viewers?
Just that I'm very pleased and thankful that we got selected as a tribe to reach out to other people.
Great. Okay, we want to thank you. We have come from the Spirit Lake Nation up in Fort Totten, North Dakota, right next door to Devil's Lake, and you have got to come visit soon. Lots of things to do, lots of places to stay, have a cup of coffee, stay for a day, stay for a weekend. Come stay for a lifetime. There's a lot to do around here. And we will see you from our next hometown in another location.